Yeah. So let's get to our position by position grades through 5 games of the season. I think this is just kind of assessing what we've seen so far from each position group and assessing sort of our outlook for the rest of the season as well. So Bennett, you drew the QBs, so you're up first. What do you make of Utah's QB situation through 5 games?
Yeah, I'll start off and I give the room an A minus. I want to give it an A. I've been very happy with the quarterback play, but there's still some things that we need to see. In particular, the intermediate to long ball. Started to see some of that last week versus West Virginia. You might remember that we talked last week about just needing to see the ball, the see us stretch the field vertically.
Yeah.
Verticality was the word over and over again. Against West Virginia, Dampier was 10 of 14 on passes, 10 yards or greater. Uh, you'll remember that we talked about the yards per pass attempt on the season after the Texas Tech game. Utah was averaging 6.2 yards per pass attempt and had just 4.2 yards per pass attempt against Texas Tech. We agreed that we'd like to see Utah hover somewhere in that 8 yards per pass attempt. Against West Virginia, 9.1. You kind of see what that looked like. It felt like we weren't doing the dink and dunk stuff. We were finding more. Utah's finding more of the intermediate stuff. That's been really nice. One big thing, Bartle shared this out. I'm gonna steal stats real quick because I'm sitting right next to you, and I've already given you credit and given the work cited. But wanted to make sure that the stats were rehashed here. Last season, Dampier threw a catchable ball on 79% of his throws. This season, he's climbed that to 87% catchable throws. So good improvement there. Last season, he was a 67% on target thrower. And this season, he's improved that to 78%. So he's throwing a pretty ball. A lot of people question whether he was an accurate passer, if he could, hang and whatnot. And thus far, he's really proven his ability to do that. And another thing is the interceptions.
Yeah.
He's taking care of the ball. I think a lot of that comes from not having to play superhero football. He's got a defense that has his back. He has an offensive line that gives him the time. So we've seen those are some of the causes that's led to his improvement so far. But as Utah continues onward with this season, you want to see more trying that those intermediate to longer passes. So that way a stack box is no sweat off our back. And then, the other piece in the room, got to make sure we talk about Bird Ficklin. He's been awesome. He's come in and he's absolutely mopped things up. He's not just handing the ball off, but he's running the offense. He's looked confident out there as both a runner and as a thrower. And he feels like a great insurance policy for Utah. Whereas the last 2 years, Utah's been in a bit of a pickle when QB1 goes down. This year, if the time comes, I think everybody's going to feel good about having Bird Ficklin.
I think
So
that's
A-.
been yeah, I think that's been such a fun dynamic to add to this team this season is having a quarterback that you can funnel reps to late in games and get him those opportunities to execute the offense at a high level with minimal risk, right? You don't have your starters out there. He's running with second and third teams, and yet you're still trying to get high level execution late in games, which I think is just a fantastic situation for Ficklin to be in, operating behind Devin Dampier. And, just to kind of add something here, I remember, as we were putting this together, I remember a conversation I had with On3's Ari Wasserman at Big 12 meeting.
You muted. I'm sorry. I thought my AirPods died.
Oh man, that was live
You
streams.
you went out talking to Ari Wasserman at Big 12 Media
Okay.
Days.
And he called Devin Dampier an alien for the things that he's able to do with his legs, right? Creating something out of nothing, being dynamic and truly explosive, truly exciting. One of the most exciting players in college football last year. Ari Wasserman called him an alien. And I think I want to see Dampier show us some more of that alien type ability, right? The creating plays out of nothing. And I think he's been so good operating in in this offense, behind this offensive line specifically. I think he's benefited a lot from a clean pocket. Obviously, that's led to the improvements that you noted with improved on target numbers, improved catchable ball numbers. That's a product of a clean pocket, and I think that's really exciting. But there are going to be games where he's got to be that alien, and I think we've got to see some of that over these next few games specifically. So that's going to be something that I'm curious to see with him specifically. So I'm up next. I've got the running backs, and this is a group that I think there's uh, plenty of reason to be optimistic and feel good about this group. But there are also some things that I think leave us wanting more. And first and foremost, gotta protect the ball a little bit better. Got to take care of and avoid those fumbles, not put it on the ground and that sort of thing. But when you see Wayshawn Parker, he's got 280 yards and 3 touchdowns. You've got N'Kerry Rogers at 250 and 4 touchdowns. You like the overall production of this running game and this rushing attack with those two. Now we've seen Daniel Bray, and Coach Whittingham has talked about they need to get him more involved. And I think that's just another change of pace that could really round out the ability of this group specifically. But there's something here that just it's 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 been bugging me, and I talked about it on the Tuesday podcast, the 5 burning questions episode, where I talked about Utah needs more juice for the squeeze that they're getting from their offensive line. And I finally kind of found some numbers that kind of illustrate what I'm talking about here. So the Utah running backs have the highest broken or missed tackle rate at 27.9% in the Big 12. So among all Big 12 running backs, Utah's running back group are breaking or forcing missed tackles at the highest rate at 27.9%. However, their yards after contact is second lowest in the conference at just 2.4 yards. Now, the difference between first and 15th, where Utah isn't much in terms of the average number. I think first is about 4.1, which is significant. But what that number is, what it represents is you're breaking off some bigger plays. You're generating some some more explosives after contact. And I think that is something that I want to see more from this running back group specifically. I want to see more of those big plays. Thinking back to the NFL last year with Saquon Barkley, Barkley had an elite line in front of him blocking, and he was able to capitalize by creating chunk play, explosive play, chunk play, explosive play, one after another. And I think that's what I need to see from this running back group specifically moving forward, going into this next phase of the schedule. So, and I think Bray can help with that potentially, where you can start hitting some of these home runs. They're hitting a lot of doubles right now, which is great, right? You're moving the chains, you're being efficient, but at some point Utah needs to start getting some big play explosives out of this run game. So for me, this running back room, given the production, you like what you've seen, but with the fumbles and sort of needing more out of it, I'm going to give this group a B-.
Yeah, and I think that's a fair grade for the group. No real concerns, but just more juice.
Need to see more. Yeah, just need to see more. That's all.
Yeah, I drew wide receivers, so start off with just go through some stats. Ryan Davis, 348 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns, an 83% catch rate. JJ Buchanan, 9 receptions, 78 yards, 2 touchdowns. Tobias Merriweather, 6 receptions, 96 yards. Also got 2 defensive pass interferences he's drawn. The question on the wide receiver room is, how badly does Utah need someone else to emerge? You've got Davis, who's emerged as that go-to guy, Mr. Reliable. He's made some absolute key catches throughout the season. But how badly does Utah need someone else to emerge? I'd say definitely need to get more playmakers involved in the wide receiver room. That'll certainly help, but wouldn't say it's desperately needed. I feel Dampier's still able to find wide receivers, find tight ends, and he's able to move the chains with his arm. But having an extra guy that can be relied on would definitely help further elevate this offense and can be the difference between scoring 30 in a game, scoring 40 in a game. It'll be interesting to see if Tobias Merriweather and or JJ Buchanan can help be those guys down the stretch. I think those are the two that have that opportunity knocking on the door. Tobias Merriweather, he's actually been pretty solid as far as on-target catch rate. He's 85.7%. He has 1 drop on the season. So that just shows that he's got reliability as a receiving option, even if he's not always that go-to threat. The big thing for Merriweather, it's going to be just building chemistry with Dampier. Timing is so important. I feel like they've been off a step on several opportunities where if they weren't off a step, the narrative about the wide receiver room, the narrative about the deep ball, the narrative about explosiveness, it's all flipped on its head, and it's literally just a few steps that separate that from being what it is. So I don't think it's I don't think it's totally bad. I'm going to go with B- because of Ryan Davis. I'm going to go with B- because of JJ Buchanan's kind of ability to, you throw it up for him, he's going to find a way to bring that in. We've seen that on his 2 touchdowns. But still some room to grow there.
Yeah, and I think there's some easy things that they can do to get Merriweather, some easy touches. Ryan Davis is the first read. Dallin Bentley is the second read on most of these passing plays. And obviously Merriweather's gotta earn it. But I think there's certainly some things that they can do, tweaking some of the progression, some of the initial reads for Dampier to get Merriweather more involved. But you love what you've established with your top 2 pass catchers in Ryan Davis and Dallin Bentley, which gets me to the next group, tight ends, which I'm just going to put it out there. This is an A- group, and it's largely due to what we've seen from Dallin Bentley: 22 receptions, 246 yards, 3 touchdowns. He's been, really good in the blocking schemes as well on the ground game. And I think he is, emerging as one of the top tight ends in the conference this season. He's number 2 in receptions, number 2 in yards, and I believe number 4 in yards per game among Big 12 tight ends. And so you really like those numbers. I think Dallin Bentley can do even more. We talked about it, a couple weeks ago, where there were these indications that there's a bit more of a playmaking mentality that Bentley has than what we've seen from him up to this point. And I think we're starting to see more of that. We're starting to see more of the confidence, the chemistry developing. And I really like what Utah's done with Bentley. Now, in this tight end position, you've also lost Hunter Andrews for the season. I think he was going to be a guy that sort of emerged as that Brant Kuithe type. How is Utah going to move forward without Hunter Andrews and the versatility that he provided this offense? That's going to be a big, big question mark that they're going to have to answer. I think Lander Barton can, supplement some of those reps, maybe, but you got to start using him, right? Don't just have him out there to run routes if you're not going to use him. I think that's going to be the thing for him with Lander. And then, you've got some other guys. Otto Tia started to finally get some opportunities last week. Can he continue to build on that? It's been a process for him getting acclimated to the tight end position. I think for him, that's going to be a big key and a big opportunity that he's got to capitalize on. So because of Dallin Bentley and what he's done so far, this group A- for me, but big question mark moving forward that they've got to answer is how do they, supplement the Hunter Andrews production. So that's going to be a thing. The next group, offensive line, this is a B+ for me. I think this is an offensive line that has provided great protection. Dampier, they've trimmed the pressure rate allowed from 35% to 24% this season, which is significant. They've provided Dampier a lot of time when he's been protected as well, which has allowed him to, thrive as a passer. And then, with this run game, I talk a lot about line yards and, what that usually means for the run game. But there's this new stat, EPA. And you guys, everybody that's been following football for the last, little while, starting to see more and more talk about EPA, estimated points added, which is, the latest and greatest from the football geeks. I don't know how to best explain it. But it is a number that essentially provides an indication of what sort of value these players position groups are actually bringing to the field on a play-by-play type basis. So it's a cumulative thing, and I think this best illustrates the value that this offensive line has brought to the table for Utah this season. The EPA that this group, Utah's offensive line, is credited with, they're credited with 99.48 points added this season. That is number one, not only in the Big 12, that is number one in the country. And the gap between number one Utah at 99.48 points added and number two Auburn at 8 is 15 points. They're at 84.2. And just to kind of give you an indication of just sort of the gap, it is the same sort of difference between Utah at 1 and Auburn at 2. You have to go all the way down to number 16, where Ole Miss is, for the same difference of 15 points, just to kind of give you an illustration of how far that gap is between Utah and Auburn. So really significant. This group is providing a ton of value for Utah. And again, it gets back to my point earlier about the running back room. This is where we need to start seeing a little bit more juice for the squeeze. This group is providing you a lot of movement up front. It's time for these running backs to start hitting some home runs, man.
Absolutely. I got the other side of the trenches as we move to defense. I got the defensive line. I gave this group an A. It's probably the best performing unit on the team thus far, led by John Henry Daly, 6.5 sacks, number one in the country. Daly's been a dominant force. He's been absolutely disruptive. Even when he doesn't get home, he's there. He's creating pressure. Wreaking absolute havoc. On the opposite end, you got Logan Fano, who might not show up totally on the stat sheet. There's still another gear there for Fano. Early in the season, he started off a little banged up, battled through an illness, things like that. So be interesting to see him come into his own as the season grows on. And then the real star is the D tackles. Coming into the season, it was looked at as a position group that might have been a little thin. And then there's some injuries that happen, and you've got true freshmen playing. Shout out Carson Kafusi, Poo. The guys have been stepping up, and there was concern about the depth, and the depth has been challenged early on, and they've absolutely answered the call. Jonah Laia has absolutely rose to the occasion. He's been really solid, and that's been a good group. And just a couple of things to keep in mind. Utah's number 6 in the country in time to pressure with 3.09 seconds overall. And then if you look at that base rush, look at that 4-man rush, number 3 in the country in time to pressure. So getting home in 3.17 seconds on average on non-blitz pass rushes. That's huge, because that now allows you, when you look at a team like Arizona State coming up, where you've got a dual threat quarterback where he can throw it, he can run it. You don't have to assign all of your resources to get that pass rush. So number 3 in the country in time to pressure on non-blitz pass rushes. Shout out to the D line doing their job, earning their A grade thus far through the season.
Yeah, John Henry Daly being the guy, on the campaign for mayor of Sac Lake City, but a guy that I think is in the running for councilman or something. Jonah Laia, man, he's been a stud stepping up at that defensive tackle position. I think the most impressive thing about Laia, he's played the second most snaps on that side of the ball so far this season, which is significant. So he's been somebody that's been really big for Utah on that side of the ball. And yeah, Carson Kafusi, excited to see him more over this next little bit. He was dinged up. I think he's going to be a guy that we see a little bit more over these next couple weeks. He's getting healthy, and I think there's a lot of reason to be optimistic about him. I've got the linebackers, Lander Barton. There were a lot of questions about him and his ability to handle the green dot and the responsibilities there, and I think so far he's handled that responsibility quite well. Obviously we know that the green dot gets passed around a little bit, but that is primarily Lander's responsibility, and he's stepped up this season. I don't think it's been much of an issue at all, and so I want to make sure that we recognize that from him. There are way too many times where I shouldn't say way too many times because it's his job, but I've just seen a lot of it where he's pointing things out across the line of scrimmage, offensive schemes, what we're supposed to be doing, getting guys lined up correctly, seeing a lot of leadership from Lander, which I think is good. And then Jonathan Hall has really stepped up. He's the leading tackler on the team. He's had a couple of opportunities for interceptions that you like that he's in position to make that play. It's just now he's got to start making those plays. And then with Lavani Damuni and Trey Reynolds, those guys have been really good, providing some snaps and stepping up in key moments as well. So like this linebacker group, I think I want to see a little bit more playmaking from them as we get into this October and November stretch. They've been solid. They've taken care of business, but we need to start seeing a little bit more playmaking. So I'm going to give this group a B plus. And I think, again, just want to see a little bit more out of them.
Okay, and as we move out of the front six and into the back end of the defense, I got cornerbacks. Gave it a B minus. It hasn't been a disaster, but that has been an area, if you're looking at the Utah defense, where there's room for improvement, it'd be on the cornerbacks. You can make the argument that some of their woes have come out late game in garbage time, if you will. But talking through it, Snowden, he's been a reliable cornerback. He's done some of that star coverage against top wide receivers on the opposing teams. He's been playing both ways, and we started to see Utah move away from that a little bit last week. It'll be interesting to see if that's something that you see more of, just spending more time on defense. He's been a stud there. So he's allowing 0.3 yards per coverage snap. He's been targeted 12 times. He's only allowing 33% completion percentage. So he's been rock solid there. When you look at a game like Arizona State, you'd expect Smith Snowden to be that guy that could potentially lock up Jordan Tyson, who's going to be a first round draft pick at the wide receiver position. Scooby Davis has also been pretty solid, allowing 0.6 yards per cover snap. He's allowing just 43.8% on completions on his targets. Some areas to clean up, not just on lapses in coverage, but some of the tackling. You think of teams where they find success in the run game. It's on the edges on the outside, and you just want to see some more sound stuff out of that cornerback room. So I gave them a B minus. They've mostly done their job, but there's been some moments that you can get burned on if you don't have it put together.
Yeah, so with the safety group, that's what I've got next, and that'll finish us up here. I gave this group a C minus, and unfortunately, this group has been hit by the injury bug, which I think has certainly contributed to some of the issues and sort of not living up to expectations. I think there was a lot of excitement for a guy like Rabbit Evans, and there was a lot of optimism and confidence even that he would be a guy and a stud playmaker on this defense this season. And unfortunately, you just never got to see it this year. So, I think the missed tackles is a big issue in the secondary and especially in this safety room. It's been just a really bad tackling struggle for this safety room. Nate Ritchie ended with 11 missed tackles. Teo Johnson with 6 missed tackles. Nate Tillman had a couple missed tackles against West Virginia. those are going to be things that this group has to clean up. As long as they can address their tackling issues, I'm optimistic that this group is going to bounce back and perform at a higher level. But that's going to be the key, is tackling. They've got to clean up their missed tackles in order to reach their the standard that Morgan Scalley should have in that room. All right, let's man, should we keep going? We've still got a couple things that we can run through, Bennett, but we're kind of up against the clock here.
I'm good whichever way you want to go. I think we can get into ranking the remaining schedule and then some of that other stuff. I mean, I think we've touched on in roundabout sort of ways. I'd say the one thing would be special teams. I could gloss over that super quick. Kicking, had one bad outing. Since then, made some kicks. Balls kicked out of the back of the end zone. That's been amazing. I saw UT ESPN post that so far this year, Utah has only had 4 kicks returned and 26 touchbacks. And of those 4 returns, returners are averaging 17.75 yards per return, placing
not
the ball
bad
short of the 25-yard line. So
not bad.
No doubt, kick it out of the back of the end zone. It's been something we've been asking for. The returners, the return game, need more there.
Yeah.
Need more.
Yeah, for sure. Need a little bit more there. All right, let's run through the remaining schedule. Let's run through that real quick, and then we'll wrap this up and we'll get that space going for you. So remaining schedule, you've got Arizona State coming to town. You've got Provo, BYU, Colorado, Cincinnati at home. You've got a bye week. You're going on the road to Baylor, Kansas State, and Kansas on the road as well. How do you rank this, and what are going to be some things that you're looking at with each matchup?
Yeah, I could honestly flip a coin and pick BYU or pick Arizona State and be happy either way with how to rank them. I think land on BYU just because it's an away game. How much is at stake? How important that game is beyond just this season, but in the bigger picture of things. Funny enough, ESPN's matchup predictor. Take it with a grain of salt, but that's the only one that's the only game remaining on Utah's schedule that ESPN has gives the opponent a better chance of winning with a 62.8%. But lots at stake there, big game. And then I'd go Arizona State.
I'm with you there. I think BYU at Provo, especially, that's going to be a tough game. It would have been tough, had it been at Rice Eccles State. We know what this rivalry game is. You can put this default number 1 each and every year because that's just what this rivalry is, dude. It's incredible, and that the atmosphere down there in Provo, it's tough, and so we know what this is going to take. But I think that's going to be a tough one. And then Arizona State, Sam Leavitt, dude, they're just playing good football, creating enough of an opportunity late in these games to make plays in the fourth quarter and to get these wins. They've been really impressive, tough as nails after that Mississippi State loss, but that's going to be it's going to be a tough one for Utah at Rice Eccles. But I think there's certainly some things that we like in that matchup that I think Utah can take advantage of.
Yeah. Then from there, there's 2 away games, Baylor and Kansas. Feel like those you can flip flop either which way. Baylor with the air raid, they come in and just absolutely light up a scoreboard in a flash. That's always something that can present a challenge, but they've also shown that they're bullyable, if you will. You watch how Auburn beat them. You watch how they play
Arizona State.
Yeah, I think that plays into what Utah wants to do. Utah's going to want to push them around, and So
go ahead.
I was just gonna say I'd still put Baylor at that third toughest game, and then Kansas.
Yeah, I agree. I think Kansas, when you look at that team itself, like I think Utah should feel plenty confident about the team, but it's the context around the game, right? Thanksgiving week, Friday morning game, you just don't know, right? It's such a wild card, the situation that the game is in. I think I like the matchup, in terms of just talking, numbers and how Utah matches up with the Jayhawks. I like that one, but I think again, given kind of the context and the situation that it is, I think that's fair to put it number 4 here, even though, maybe Kansas State or Colorado or Cincinnati are playing better football. I think, given that Thanksgiving week game, I think it's appropriate here.
Yeah. And then the other games, Kansas State, Colorado, Cincinnati. I think they're all home games. You can rank them whichever way you want. I'd go Kansas State. They've got a good roster. They've got a good coaching staff. Season hasn't gone the way that they want. Murphy's Law says that by the time they roll into town, they're going to be pieced together. But Avery Johnson is a glorified running back, and one-dimensional quarterbacks just don't typically get it done against Utah defenses. Colorado, a lot of talent on the roster, and talent can flat out win games. That could be a trap game coming off the Arizona State BYU 1-2 punch, but with Colorado being a team that's in the spotlight, a team that gets a lot of that intrigue, Deion's Buffs is going to be a team that Utah should have no problem getting up against. And then Cincinnati.
Yeah. And with Colorado, I don't know, is Cincinnati coming off a bye as well the next week? I know Colorado was coming off a bye, after Utah plays BYU, they'll have that bye that week. So they're going to be coming off a bye going into that Utah game, which, that just makes it, another kind of interesting layer when we're talking about the difficulties of these games, right? We learned last year what a bye week can do when you go back to that Utah-Arizona game and the way that Arizona came in fresh and with a whole new game plan and all of that. So that is something that I'm considering when we're talking about Colorado. So I feel like I would put them 5th and Kansas State 6th. But, given the talent and sort of the identity that Kansas State has built and the success that they've had, I think it makes sense to have them 5th still. And then Cincinnati, it feels disrespectful to put them 7th because they are playing some good football. And yet it just speaks to kind of the difficulty of the remaining schedule. Like all of these teams are tight, but I think Cincinnati is going to be a tough one.
Yeah, no, I agree with all those points. No gimmies, no real gimmies down the stretch.
No, definitely not. And, especially this one that Adam Howick, is calling out. So we'll just leave it at that. But yeah, let's wrap this one up. We've gone a little bit over an hour, which I think has been great. I appreciate everybody that, submitted questions or submitted comments. We appreciate everybody tuning in and making this fun. It's been a lot of, it's been a lot of fun, and I'll make sure UTESPN, I'll send you the beard tips. I'll send you the routine real quick here once we're done. So we're going to put an end to this, and Bennett, you're going to get the Twitter spaces going here pretty soon so we can, pass the mic around and hear from everybody and just kind of how everybody's going to be approaching the bye week this weekend. So appreciate everybody. Bennett, appreciate you, my dude. And I'll be back at it tomorrow with another solo episode for the Blockcast. So appreciate everybody. We'll be signing off and get that Twitter space going.
Thanks, everybody.